All right, this lesson is on solving inequalities. This lesson is going to assume that you've already learned how to solve equations. So if you haven't learned how to solve equations, then I've got some videos on those that you can go back and watch. All right, so solving inequalities is basically the same thing as solving equations. So all the things you learned in solving equations, you're also going to use in solving inequalities. So you're going to use opposite operations to get the variable by itself. But there is one important difference. And here is that one important difference. If the variable is being multiplied or divided by a negative number, then you have to flip the inequality symbol. So you have to change which way it's facing. So if the variable is being multiplied or divided by a negative number, then you have to flip the inequality symbol. And here are some examples of that. So here, the variable is being multiplied by -2. So if the variable is multiplied or divided by a negative number, then what we have to do is just rewrite the inequality like this, and that's what I mean by flipping the inequality. So flip it around and then solve it just like you would solve an equation. So you would subtract 4 and then divide by -2. This is one that a lot of students get tricked on. This minus sign, remember, belongs to the 2. So really, the x, the variable, is being multiplied by -2. So this is another one that you're going to have to flip. So 7 minus 2x less than or equal to -3, and then you would solve it just like you would solve an equation. Here's another example. Again, it doesn't matter where this negative sign is. If there's a negative sign over here, then there's a negative involved. And if there's a negative involved with multiplying or dividing, then you have to flip the inequality. So again, we would flip the inequality. And the reason I'm writing an F here is because I'm going to encourage my students to go through the problems before they start and identify the ones that need to be flipped by writing an F next to them. So again, the problem stays the same except you flip the inequality. And then again, here's another one. So this minus sign belongs to this, and so this is one that you would flip. So you would just change it to 3 minus x divided by 2 is less than -2, and you would solve it just like you would solve an equation. All right, so let's look at some examples of this. And you'll see what I mean when I say it's just like solving an equation. I also have a video on graphing inequalities. So if you haven't seen that yet, you should go back and watch that video. Because what you're doing in this assignment for my students is you're solving the inequality and then you're graphing the solution. Let's put an F next to the problems that require you to flip the inequality. So if I look at number 1, the variable is being multiplied by +2. So that's not one that I need to flip. In number 2, the variable is being multiplied by -3. So this is one that I need to flip. So I'm going to put an F next to it to remind me of that. And likewise on number 3, here's a negative in this division. So this is one that I'm going to need to flip. Number 4, this is a positive. There's no negative here. So I don't need to flip that one. All right, so let's go back to number 1. And I said that you're going to solve these. You're going to solve these just like you the equation. So the way I teach to solve equations, put a line down the middle. I see -3, so I do +3. -3 plus 3 is 0, so that leaves me with 2x is less than -9 plus 3 is -6. And now I times x, so I'm going to do the opposite and divide by 2. So my solution is that x is less than -3. So x is all values less than -3. So again, if you're not familiar with graphing these, go back and look at my lesson on that. And so this is not or equal to, so it's an open circle at -3. X is the values that are less than -3, so that's to the left. So x can be any of these values to the left of -3. All right, so let's go into 2. I put an f next to this because the variable is being multiplied by a negative number. So before I start, I'm going to just go ahead and rewrite this. -3x plus 2, and I'm going to flip this. That's what the f stood for. So instead of greater than or equal to, it's less than or equal to -7. Now I have a two-step problem to solve. I'm going to solve it just like I solve a two-step equation. I see plus 2, so I'm going to do -2. So 2 minus 2 is 0. Bring down the -3x. Bring down my inequality symbol. Remember, I flipped it. -7 minus 2 is -9. Now I see -3 times x, so I'm going to divide by -3. So those will cancel out and make 1. And the answer is x is less than or equal to +3. So let's go ahead and graph the solution. X is all the values that are less than or equal to 3. So this is going to be a solid circle this time at 3 because of the or equal to. X is all the values that are less than that, so those values are to the left. And if you go and look at my lesson on graphing inequalities, there's a trick you can use that you can think of this as an arrow and it points which way to shade. So this is pointing to the left, I shade to the left. Pointing to the left, I shade to the left. The caveat to that is that if the variable is on the other side of the inequality, then it's pointing in the opposite direction. So again, go and check out that video and it'll help you out. All right, so number 3 is another one that I put flip f because there's a negative here. So I'm just going to go ahead and rewrite this. So -2, and I'm going to flip the inequality, make it face the other way. Now I'm going to solve this just like I would solve a two-step equation. So I see -2, I'm going to do +2. -2 plus 2 is 0. I have -x over 5 is less than -3 plus 2 is -1. So I have division, so I'm going to do multiplication. Negative here, so I'm going to multiply by -5. Those will cancel each other out. And I'm left with x is less than +5. This is going to be an open time. I'm going too fast. Just back it up and listen again. So this is an open circle because it's not or equal to. It says x is less than. So that's all the values pointing to the left. And I guess I made all of these less than. That's not very teacher-like of me. All right, so number 4, there's not an F next to this one because there's not a negative here. Again, you flip it if the variable is being multiplied or divided by a negative number. So I'm just going to go ahead and solve this. A line down the middle here. I see +2, so I'm going to do -2 on both sides of the inequality. Those cancel each other out. I have x divided by 2 is less than or equal to 4 minus 2 is 2. Now x divided by 2, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 2 using opposite operations to get the variable by itself. So x is less than or equal to 4. This equals to, so this is going to be a solid circle at 4. It says x is less than, so again, I'm shading to the left. And again, the arrow trick is if this is pointing to the left, you shade to the left. Unless the variable's on the other side, then you shade the opposite way. All right, so let's look at what else we have here. All right, so for these, I just want you to look at these, tell me which ones would require you to flip. And again, the ones you flip are the ones where the variable is being multiplied or divided by a negative number. So I want you to pause this, go through them, see which ones you would put an F next to, and then come back and see if you got the right ones. All right, so on the first one, x is not being multiplied or divided by anything. So this is not one you would flip. On number 2, x is being multiplied by positive 2. So that's not one you would flip. Number 3, x is being divided by positive 2. So that's not one you would flip. Again, if the variable is being multiplied or divided by a negative number, that's when you flip the inequality. Number 4, again, the x is just being multiplied by positive 2. This is a positive 2. Don't look at this minus sign over here. That goes with that 2. So you don't flip that one. Number 5, the x is being multiplied by negative 2. So this is one that I would want to flip. And so again, just if you were going to solve this, before you solve it, you should just rewrite it with the inequality flipped. And then you would divide both sides by negative 2. Number 6, this is division, and there's a negative sign involved here. So this is one that we would want to flip too. So remember, this negative sign can be on the x, it can be on the 2, it can be in the middle. If there's a negative here, that's one you want to flip. And so again, before you solve this, you should just rewrite it like this, and then go ahead and multiply both sides by negative 2. All right, so I hope you found this useful and helpful. If so, please give it a like and a subscribe. And if you have any comments, please don't hesitate to leave some. Until next time.